We just got some pretty big news about Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars straight from the Russo Brothers, a little bit of info on Spider-Man 4, plus some leaks about characters potentially appearing in Doomsday. We gotta get into all of this. Let's start off with the news straight from the directors of the next two Avengers movies themselves, the Russo Brothers. Because they've been doing press for their new movie, The Electric State, for Netflix, but obviously the interviewers have been asking them questions about the next two Avengers films, and they've actually given us some pretty good answers. The first question they were asked was related to the runtime of the movies, and they responded saying, if I were a betting man, I would say the first one is 2.5 hours, and the second one is 3 hours long. Now, me personally, I kind of wish Doomsday was going for that 3 hour runtime too, just because I feel like there's so many characters that haven't really met each other before. They need that extra time to establish the dynamic, but we have to remember, Avengers Infinity War is only 2 hours and 30 minutes, and not including the credits, this thing's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and honestly, it fits it all in perfectly. So I'm not worried about them only planning on having Doomsday go for 2.5 hours as well. They've also came out and said that they plan on filming on sound stages in studios instead of like on real location sets, and that they've picked specific filming locations just to avoid leaks in particular, which honestly, you can't blame them for trying to avoid leaks as much as possible. Even though it's always nice to have movies filmed on real locations, this isn't really new for the MCU, especially with these big movies with a ton of secrets to hide, like Spider-Man No Way Home and the last two Avengers movies. They filmed them almost all behind closed doors so nothing gets out, besides this one Andrew photo that somehow leaked from the No Way Home set that he claimed was Photoshopped for like months. Maybe I'm looking too much into this little comment, but it's really interesting for a reason I'll get into in a couple seconds. But they said that Robert Downey Jr. tried to convince them to come back to the MCU a year before they officially signed. They said Downey decided to go back before we decided, we just didn't have a story to tell, and then it hit us. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because Jonathan Majors as Kang was officially fired from the MCU December of 2023. Only 6 months later, they announced that the Russo brothers were coming on to direct Doomsday instead of Kang Dynasty. Obviously, the Russo brothers have been signed on for like at least a couple months before the Comic-Con panel where they announced this all. This tells me is that the MCU was pretty much already having RDJ in talks like the millisecond Jonathan Majors got into any legal trouble and before anything probably even went to court. Or maybe just because of the failure of recent MCU films around this time, maybe before any of that started, they already replaced him with Downey without us really knowing behind the scenes, which is kind of crazy. Last little comment from the Russo brothers here is that they said that Robert Downey Jr. is doing detailed research to play Doctor Doom. He's writing backstory, costume ideas. He just really loves rich three-dimensional characters, and I think he sees a real opportunity here with the character. I know this decision has been under attack since the day they announced it, but I honestly think RDJ is going to do a great job. Obviously, they have a story reason for it to be the same guy that played Iron Man. It's just going to have to wait and see what they do with this. I think they're going to cook. Before we get into Doomsday leaks that are completely separate from the concept art, these are more like casting related, I do want to just cover this quick Spider-Man 4 news because currently it's not scheduled to be released on any IMAX theaters, which is kind of a shame. It's always fun and better to watch a movie on a giant IMAX screen than a regular theater screen, but it's understandable because this film's releasing like 2 weeks after Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and especially after the success Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer had in IMAX, this thing's taken up all the screens for like a month or two probably. Now let's move on to some Doomsday leaks. This all comes from the Cosmic Circus. I've covered them on the channel before. They got a lot of things right, especially when it comes to casting. Like they knew who Adam Warlock was way before James Gunn even announced it. First one says that Monica Rambeau will play an important role in Avengers Doomsday, and her role is said to be similar to Vision's role in Infinity War, which tells me that she's going to be a key piece that Doom needs likely. Something with the multiverse probably related since she is in a different universe if you didn't watch the Marvels and see the post-credit scene. This also kind of makes it sound like she's going to be a sacrifice or killed off in the movie, but who knows? It's probably not going to be exactly like Vision. They want to do something different, but something similar. It can only be one of those two things. Danny Ramirez will reportedly return as Joaquin Torres, aka the Falcon, in Doomsday, which makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we know Sam Wilson's Captain America is tasked with building up the new Avengers, likely being their new leader. Obviously, his sidekick Falcon is going to come along for the ride, and I'm happy for this. I really enjoy the dynamic in Captain America Brave New World, even if it's not as great as Steve and Sam's dynamic was. Taskmaster will reportedly return in Doomsday. We already knew that the rest of the Thunderbolts were going to be in the movie, so this one's kind of separate for some reason, but still cool to know. I'm really hoping they can revive her character in the Thunderbolts because she was just so wasted in Black Widow. We also know that the same set that was used for the Sanctum Sanctorum will be used for filming of Avengers Doomsday, so whether they're going to change it and make it into something else or actually use it as a Sanctum, we don't really know, but it does seem like Strange is probably going to be a big role in this movie, so it would make sense. If you want to see my review of the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, tap the video above my head right now on screen. Thank you so much for watching.